Okay, we're live. So, a couple trials and errors, but I think finally getting to actually live stream. Let's see here. We are checking to make sure it's live. Here. Yes. Nice. Okay. new new thing. We are streaming on my Canon R6. I don't know how long it will last. I don't know what's going to kick out first, the battery, the camera overheating, or a setting that I hadn't considered. And this is why when you do live streams, you do a lot of testing because I had to do like 3, and it was like, this is. There you go, right there. This is the first time I've ever streamed with this specific camera. I usually use my big Sony FX6, which is right there, but I don't know if that'll fit very well on my desk. And I'm just now realizing that I think I have like auto off set super fast apparently when it's in video mode, maybe. So I don't know if I just have to keep like touching it and then go back later and fix it. So this is going to be a short office hours today, but let me know what you think in the comments if you're watching this later, or in the chat if you're watching this now, what you think about the sound quality and the video picture. Is this worth the extra effort of streaming with the DSLR over using the phone? I'm also aiming it directly up because, again, there's not a lot of real estate on my desk. Also, this is kind of nice to shoot up into like the empty ceiling because it's kind of a neater backdrop than looking at my messy office, which is constantly a mess. So we got that going for us. This could maybe be a little brighter, like a touch brighter. That's darker. Yeah, that's a little better. One more maybe. Yeah, it's hard to tell because the computer screen looks different than the recording screen, and that looks different than the viewer screen. It's like I'm looking at 3 screens and it's completely different. But so my setup, I have a Rode VideoMic Pro going into a Canon R6. I'm shooting with the Canon 24-70 2.8 version 2. It's set to 24 millimeter, which feels like a good amount. It's sitting on top of a Joby GorillaPod, just the head, and then it's kind of sitting on a Edelkrone Slider 1 that I never use anymore because the travel distance is like 6 inches. And that's going out the camera into an A10 Mini, not an A10 Mini Pro, mind you, because I bought the A10 Mini like right when the pandemic started because I was like, I'm gonna get so much streaming work. Which, I mean, I guess technically I have gotten a lot of streaming work, but like I have barely used this for it. Most of the time I'm using the client's streaming gear to do stuff. And then I just bring my cameras. And then, there's other people, not always, but oftentimes there's other people that are like the streaming technician. And then I'm more on like the camera side, but I can also step in if needed. So it's kind of a nice double. I feel like most of the streaming events I'm doing are like higher end ones where we're not just streaming to YouTube, like we're pushing to like custom sites. And in that realm, like I know enough how to get to Vimeo and then how to like embed, but like I can't build a website. I mean, I probably could if I tried, but I don't want to do that. And so I'm working with some really smart people that do like doing that. And then on the flip side, I'm kind of driving the ship on I'm just kind of managing the stream, managing a multicam thing, and doing kind of the switching. And then very smart people are sending the stream out to employees on an internal employee network. So the A10 Mini, was it a good purchase? I don't know. It's getting a second life here on this channel. And I'm also realizing that this is backwards. So we're going to have to figure out why that reverses. I'm not sure. So anyway, let's get to some questions. There are no viewer questions, but we will do our best to answer some from the wide world of Reddit. Videography. I like doing the videography sub. There's always a bunch of questions on the videography sub. So let's see. I gotta find a way to filter the questions. I need to remember to start doing this before I start logging on, and that way I don't have to just kind of ramble and talk until I get to some questions. All right. Okay. Let's see. Good question to start for. Let's see. More questions. Like a lot of these questions are like really specific, and I'm like trying to help the most amount of people possible. So I'm like, okay. Man, I might have picked the wrong because I picked technical / equipment help, and I think that's all going to be like hyper specific to equipment. Here, this is better on the beginner tab. We're doing beginner questions today because I think that's the most wide, help the most people. Hi, I'm looking for suggestions for a camera for my little brother. He is turning 16 and has been thinking about getting into making videos. He's interested in cinematography. I'd like to get him a camera. I use digital camera. I'm thinking $200 for a starter because this could be a phase, so I don't want to go all in just yet. I want to see his commitment first before I buy him more equipment. What am I looking for is simple and easy to use. Any recommendations? 200 is not going to get you dick. I mean, it just isn't. I would say for $200, I would rent a camera maybe, and that could be something he could play with for a day or two, you know, if he has like a short. But I think it's gonna be better to $200. I mean, $200, be like, man, I would enroll in a course maybe for $200. I would take that $200 and work it towards education. If your little brother's 16, he's probably got a cell phone. You can make videos just fine with cell phones. I've made a couple little short films for fun with cell phones. They were kind of sort of vloggy, but not really. Yeah, it's kind of just fun. And that was back in 2015. And, you know, cell phone cameras have come a long way in 7 years. So there's really no reason. So, I mean, I would see with $200, get some books, and camera equipment that works in support of a cell phone. You get things like this little guy. This is what I was shooting the live streams on. I would just stick my phone in here. This is like a $15 tripod and like a $20 or $30 phone holder, but it's all metal. And this is really good plastic. So with this, you know, you can do a lot of stuff with it. So that would be my advice. If you had $200 to fund a brand new filmmaker that you're not sure if they're going to stick with it or not. Let's see what to charge. We answered a lot of these questions last week. I'm going to answer more because I feel like this is like a really common question for new people. I've been doing some video production for a couple of years for free for a couple of nonprofits. That's your first mistake. I only recently got into freelancing on the side for clients, weddings, birthdays, that sort of thing. So far, I've thrown out random numbers that seemed reasonable, and I haven't had anyone complain, but I'm starting to get more traffic and wanted to get some opinions on your rates. I heard of doing a percentage of the cost of gear plus travel time. That is a terrible idea. I've heard of doing an hourly rate based on editing time. That's better. That's what I use because it's simple and it's transparent and clients can understand that, especially if you're doing retail clients like birthdays and weddings. What's your method for setting your rate? Honestly, I like the hourly rate method, and then I just have different rates for different types of clients. So if it's, you know, like something artistic or nonprofit, I do $50 an hour. And if it's something corporate, it might be $125 an hour. So there's those two numbers. And then some things are just, you do them on day rates where it's like even if it's, you know, it's a half day with, some people won't do a half day rate. I do a half day rate because I like to be flexible and easy to work with. And, you know, so it's like 2-3 hours is a half day because it's going to take me time to check my gear. It's going to take me time to pack my gear. It's going to take me time to get where I'm going. We're going to have to set up, then we'll shoot for those 2 or 3 hours, tear it all down, drive it home, put it back where it belongs. And, you know, a 3-hour shoot could be 5 or 6 hours of my time to, you know, even just offloading cards, that kind of stuff. If I'm not doing editing, and then the same with a full day is, you know, anything that's 6 hours of shooting is a full day because the amount of time to charge everything, it's time I don't have for myself. also charging the client for that. And then those rates, again, kind of just depend on what I'm actually doing. If I'm a one-man band, it's obviously a lot higher because I'm going to have to spend a lot of time doing pre-production by myself. Whereas if I'm on a crew, it's a lot lower because somebody else is figuring that out. Most days I just kind of show up and I have a phone call with production and I kind of know what's happening. So that's, hopefully that answers your question. Specifically what to charge. I tell everybody new, I ask them what they're already charging, and most times it's less than $25. I say the absolute floor, do not charge less than $25 an hour. That would be my bare minimum. If you have a DSLR or better, and you have an editing software, and you can get stuff from your DSLR to the editing software, off the editing software, onto the internet, your time is worth at least $25 an hour. So that's the bare minimum. From there, it can go up depending on the kit you have, the skills you have, etc. But if you're not already charging $25 an hour, start there and work your way up. If you're just throwing out random numbers and people are saying yes, keep going up until you start getting people saying no, and then maybe work it one step back and see what happens. But if everyone's saying yes, you're doing well. Just keep throwing out that number that's just a little higher than the last time. Oh, types of video editing. Let's see, guys, what are different types of video editing? Like, I know some of them: kinetic typography, motion graphics. What are others? I feel like that's not a type of editing. That's like a skill. I wonder if you can hear the police out there, or whatever that is out there. Turn the audio back on. It's too late. Just it. Yeah, so those are skills: kinetic typography, motion graphics. So if that's your question, what skills could you learn? You could learn color grading. You could learn assistant editing, which is like a whole other subset of skills. It's like logging footage, transcoding stuff. Adding captions could theoretically be a skill. After Effects, which motion graphics kind of falls under the umbrella of After Effects. And then from there, you can kind of get just like documentary, advertising, you just kind of genre specific. So you're talking like drama will have a different flow than comedy. And those are two kind of related. Horror will have a different flow. Each of those kind of have a different feeling. And it's like, how would you, he's not asking, they're not asking. I always assume everyone on the internet's a he, which is a mistake, but they're not asking how to learn them. How to learn them is just watch a lot of it and then like take notes on stuff you like and then go make that stuff. Find a way to get involved with that kind of production, which is easier said than done sometimes. Okay. Next question. Okay. Is my phone good enough? Yes. I have an iPhone 12. Yes. Phone's good enough. I don't know what you're doing, but yes, it's good enough. Your iPhone 12 is better than anything Stanley Kubrick had. That's it. Technology-wise, your iPhone 12, Stanley Kubrick would murder you if he saw what an iPhone 12 was. That's it. He would beat you to death. He wouldn't think twice about it. Your phone's good enough. You need to learn how to light and do audio. Filming for a wedding. This happens a lot for new people. A lot of new people getting these wedding jobs is pretty easy because a lot of people don't want to spend a lot of money on weddings. They don't want to spend a lot of money on the wedding video, which I understand as someone who was a wedding photographer for many years and still does it from time to time. I don't know who's watching wedding videos. You might watch like the highlight reel once, but like, I don't get the value of it. Sorry, wedding videographers, like, I'm sure you provide a valuable service and you enjoy doing it, and that's great. Keep on keeping on, but I always tell people, I'm like, you probably don't need, like, and I've even thought about like bringing GoPros to film like the key moments. Like if they have custom vows, which most weddings, it seems like not really. The speeches, if you can get someone with a phone to film that so you can remember it, great, that's good enough. I feel like that's all you really need at a wedding. Okay, so here's the question. This is my first post in this community. I was wondering how much I should charge my uncle for his wedding next week. I asked his wife, and she's paying $1,900 for 2 photographers. That is dirt cheap. He said he'll pay me, but I'm curious how much to charge. This is my first wedding, and I filmed several events, but this is a big project. I even got a gimbal for it. What should I do? Charge them nothing. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're getting into. You're going to have a bad time, and it's going to go bad. Don't set any expectations. Just say you'll do it for the experience. And if they want it filmed for real, they should hire someone for real. Because at $1,900, like whatever you're charging is not going to be enough. You're going to be resentful. Do it for the experience. And if that sounds awful and that sounds like something you don't want to do, don't do it. That's my advice there. Okay. Next question. How do you manage storage? How do you back up all your files? If a card fails, there's a backup. But what if your computer fails or the hard drives? Do you just get 2 of everything? No, you get 3 of everything. You record, you have two drives. So that way if one drive fails, you have the other drive, and you can get things like a RAID that'll automatically copy to each other. And then you have a third copy that lives on the cloud. So that way it's you want 2 plus 1 offsite. That's the basic, like lowest level of data security. If you don't have that, it's not secured. What I like to do as much as possible, I like to keep the cards. I don't format them until I've got stuff edited or, in the process of editing. And then once I finish, I like to get like a high quality copy of the edited file. And then I put that on a cloud. And then I can ease off on the 3 thing. I can delete the cloud drive because like the hard data is not as important if it's still on 2 drives. That's how I do it. Next question. Boop, 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 doop, doo. Looking for an entry level, primarily videography, but also can shoot photo to an extent. You want a GH5. That's it. Next question. What gimbal LED light do you use? I don't use one. I don't put anything on the gimbal. The gimbal's already heavy enough, even if it's just like a Canon R6. And I'm super strong, so it's really not that heavy. But just adding stuff that takes time to balance, and then you batteries, and the batteries die, and you're like, fuck those. So I would say use external lights, because an on-camera light's not going to look good anyway, unless it's like specifically stylized and you want the ring light look or the Christina Applegate criminal video style look. The on-camera light's almost always going to look bad, so don't use them. That's my take on that. What else do we got? Let's see. Hi, I'm looking for a camera to film mostly outdoors. I'm an amateur, and it would be perfect if it costs something about $100. Use your phone. I want to record metal guitar covers. Did I answer this one last week? I'm aiming for a GoPro camera. However, people who use it tell me that it needs natural light for it, just so the picture looks good. So it's great outdoors, but bad indoors. Not entirely true. Can I use artificial light, or will it need too much of it? I have some camera angles that require mounting the camera to the body of the guitar. I will add the audio in the editing process, so you could just use it next to a window, and you're probably good. Or you could just go get some cheap clamp lights from Home Depot. They're like $10, and aim them at you. That's good enough. You don't need to really break the bank on lighting with GoPros. Contrary to popular belief, especially if you're just making covers for YouTube, like it doesn't have to look amazing. You know what I mean? Like I feel like as someone who would watch a guitar video, I'm more interested in seeing your hands so that I could learn to play the song. That's me. And I don't know if I'm representative of the average person watching a guitar video, a guitar cover video. I don't know who wants to watch a guitar cover video if they're not interested in like learning the song. It's kind of you could put all the production value you want into it, but if you're at the end of the day, if you're just sitting playing, switching between 9 cameras is just gonna overwhelm me, and I'm gonna click off your video. I'm gonna, you know, it's different if you're making like something unique with the cover, but if you're just playing the song as it was written and you're not doing anything interesting to it, you just straight on shot. You just keep using your cell phone even. But good on you for trying to increase your production value. I approve. I think you should add tabs. That's what I would do. You'd probably get more views if you added tabs. Ideal gimbal and video setup for action sports. Beer money for most helpful answer, because I appreciate you guys. Nice. I do a lot of amateur videography as a hobby, mostly for fun, Instagram edits, nothing serious. Most of the footage revolves around action sports. Much of it is follow footage. I've become very familiar with the GoPro Hero 9 with handheld grip, which is great for the style I've been shooting, but want to try taking my video to the next level. I am renting gear for the weekend, so no real budget concerns. I am thinking mirrorless camcorder with a gimbal. I am prioritizing smooth video with some good auto zoom, focus, ease of use, something I could hand off to a friend to film, and preferably one-handed filming with a gimbal. Apologies if I sound like a knob. Let me know if I should provide something more specific. If you're used to using a GoPro and how crazy smooth they've gotten, you're going to have a bad time with a gimbal. You're going to have a bad time with a mirrorless camera. There's so much complexity to it that it's not, I think the juice is not going to be worth the squeeze, because I don't think a mirrorless camera on a gimbal will be as smooth as the GoPros. So that's the first thing. So the question is, what are you not happy about with the GoPros? And when you say you want to improve the quality, what is lacking from the GoPro? That's my first question, to see what you need to do better. I would think, if it was me, this is my hot take, I would say instead of buying a gimbal and a mirrorless camera, which you're even a cheap usable setup, I mean, out the door, you're spending $3,000. For that, you could buy 10 GoPros, which, why? I think you'd be a lot better off having like 2 more GoPros that you could mount differently, for lack of a better term. So if you're thinking, you're doing a snowboard video, I mean, skateboard's a lot easier than snowboard, because snowboard covers such a lot of ground, whereas skateboard tends to be like, here's an obstacle, watch me trick off this obstacle. With people do lines in skateboarding, obviously, but you could film a line on a skateboard with the follow camera, and then you could set the GoPro up at each of the obstacles and recreate the tricks they do, and you cut in and out of that, and that would increase your production value. Similar with snowboarding, and you do the follow line, and then you be like, okay, do that, trick that you did off the ramp, do that again, and we'll get that good, and then do the next thing, we'll do that good. So time, but I just think, like, especially when you're like thinking like follow, I wouldn't feel comfortable handing $3,000 to somebody, even if it's a rental and you have insurance on it. Because like if they eat it, and that camera's going down. Like a GoPro, if you eat it, the GoPro's like, I don't care. If you eat it with a DSLR, like I've tripped with this camera before and it survived, but I was just walking and my shoelace like got caught. It was I was wearing boots and my bootlace got caught in like the lace hook thing that was like bent weird, and I ate shit while carrying 2 DSLRs with like $10,000 worth of camera stuff. But yeah, if you biff it, like there's a good chance you're gonna mess that gimbal up. So I would not hand it to a friend. I would stick with GoPros for that stuff. So that's my not fun answer. And then I think if you, honestly, I would say a drone. Now that I think about it, take that back. Drone. Get a drone. That would be probably the best thing you could do, because a drone you could follow. A drone's very stable. A drone's very easy to use. It's easy to educate someone on how to use. As long as you know the rules, you can legally let them fly it. Just don't be an idiot. I think a drone is going to be your best bet. I feel like I should respond to this person because they're offering beer money, and I want beer money. I don't even really drink beer. I only drink beer after hockey games. But we're going to answer this person on Reddit just as much. Okay, let's see here. Well, expensive. Setup. That has tech to auto or a subject. Specify. And then okay, that question answered. Next question. Let's see. Back in. Let's go like way back. Start over. Oh, it didn't. Sometimes it like auto refreshes, but now it's not auto refreshing. Rude. Maybe let's go to r/filmmakers. Let's answer some filmmaker questions. Let's see. Question. Tab. Here's a question. How do I get people to agree to film in my house without it seeming creepy? I'm frightened that they will be suspicious if I just tell them to come to a random house, even if I don't say it's mine. But it's otherwise the cheapest and quickest place to film most scenes and could be used as a base for filming other stuff. The way you ask that question is creepy. That's my first take. But the secondary thing is, honestly, I feel like actors will just go do stuff. They're just down. Because like even when we're on professional commercial sets, like here's the call sheet, here's the address, you just go. Like I never think twice about it. Like if you think about it in the abstract, filmmaking is fucking wild because you're just like, person I met on the internet sent me a call sheet and tells me where to go, and then you just show up with like $30,000 worth of camera equipment, and they could just rob you there. I mean, that's it. That's the reality. Is like any production is like, here's the call sheet, here's the address, come on down. How to not be creepy about it is to like, I mean, what are you filming? That's the real question. Is like, are you filming like shorts and sketches and fun stuff? Like, you should be casting. So there's that. And when you're casting, you should have like a Zoom call and you should meet them once or twice, at least digitally, before you like bring them on set. So that's that question. Book recommendations on filmmaking. What are some of your recommendations of books every filmmaker should read, especially novices? There's a collection of books called The Master Shots, and it's really good about like showing different styles of shots, how it's been used, why it's used, how it's done. Those are great. Tons of pictures. I really liked In the Blink of an Eye by Walter Murch, which is a book about editing. It's like a little light on the technical side, but it's just kind of like a nice little story. I mean, speaking of story, right by Robert McKee is a good one. Is that how you pronounce his name? Looks like it. I don't know, maybe. There's one book. What's it called? It's by Robert Rodriguez, and it talks about making, I think it's Desperado. It's like Guerrilla Film School. That's not right. What is that book called? Robert Rodriguez book. Rebel Without a Crew. Yep. So that's a really good one, especially if you're new, because Robert Rodriguez was crazy when he made, I think it's Desperado, whichever one his first film was, because like he edited in camera. He did like one take, and then like then the next take, which is the whole new next scene, the next sequence, and you just like, that's just bonkers to like think about. And that film's actually like pretty good, which obviously that's why he's a famous filmmaker now, is because he did very well. I feel like that's something, you know, if you do very well with your first film, Kevin Smith, you could have a career. At least that was true in the 90s anyway. How to receive payment from international clients and protect myself. Let's see. I used to work with international clients via Upwork. Terrible idea. But now it is my first time getting a client outside the marketplace. How to be paid and protected. I'm a video editor, and the project is to deliver a video every 2 weeks. I think about receiving 50% before work or 50% after, while putting a signature or mark in the video until I receive the second payment. What are your thoughts? You could do that. You could do like low res versions. It's really going to come down to like, I would say like until you've established a base, and then milestone payment. And as long as the milestone payment continues, then that's it. I mean, you might get ripped off once, and it's like, okay, just don't keep that 50%. If they're cool with that, great. And if they're not cool with that, which they might not be, they might want to pay you, you know, after the video's done, or like every 2 weeks, to make it easier for them. But if you're making a video every 2 weeks, then theoretically the first paycheck will be 100%, because it's 50% of you might have to make one, and then make sure just see if they're honest. And then if they're not, you lost your thing. But yeah, tell them 50% for the first one, and then after that, maybe you just do like every 2 weeks, they just give you the same amount and you give them the work. But I suppose, again, it's easier said than done that way, because you might not be doing the same work for every video. So that's a tricky question. I would say, yeah, if it's on a retainer and they're like, we're paying you $1,000 per video, great. Then pay me $500 so that I have expenses covered. And then you make the thing, and then they give you $500 plus $500 for the next one. Then you're set. There's a lot of ways to play that one. I do it the dumb way, where I just make the thing and then trust they'll pay me, and worked out pretty well so far 10 years later. There's definitely been a couple times where I've been burned, but it's like, I think I live in a small community that, like, if you burn people, everybody's going to know very fast. And you don't last very long, because and what's interesting is that doing it my way, I have worked with people that are burners, that burn everybody. And I'm like, they didn't burn me. So I don't know what to tell people about that. So I got a trustworthy face, I guess. I don't know. Do you agree with this Tarantino quote? Let's see. You don't have to know how to make a movie. If you truly love cinema with all your heart and with enough passion, you can't help but make a good movie. If you disagree, tell me why. That is fucking terrible advice. No, I super disagree with that. If you don't know how to make a movie, okay, that's a lot of people who start. But if you truly love cinema with all your heart and with enough passion, you can't help but make a good movie. That's honestly, if you just go look at, you just YouTube like YouTuber movie reviews, and you listen to some of the truly dog shit takes some of these people who are like cinephiles have, you can't help but think like they're going to make a bad movie. And even the YouTube reviewers who like you think know what they're doing, you watch their movies and they're always terrible. They're always just hot dog shit. Case in point, I've made some films and they're dog shit, but I have fun making them. But that's just like a film. If you don't know how to make a good movie, if you truly love cinema with all your heart, with enough passion, you can't help but make a good movie. You can't help but make a good movie if it's budgeted well and you hire a crew that knows what they're doing, and you refuse to make a bad movie. You refuse to do it wrong, and you refuse to work on it until it's right. and you agree that if it's not right, you'll shelve it. And you'll say, this is better for all of us if this doesn't see the light of day. And to that end, I would say for most filmmakers who are brand new, make small things, very small, 30 seconds, 1 minute. If that's your first thing, make a TikTok sketch and make 10 of them. And then look at your 10th one is going to be way better than your first one and realize, okay, I made 10 things. I made 900 mistakes. And I spent no money. Now on my 11th one, I'm going to make a 30-second thing instead of a TikTok and make 10 of those. And then compare your 10th 30-second piece to your first TikTok. You'd be like, whoa, this is way better. And then make like a 2-minute thing and make 10 of those. And you kind of see where this is going. Make a bunch of shorts, make the smallest thing, and iterate just a little bigger each time. And you can't help but make a good movie by the time you've made like 50 little short things. Like, it's just impossible. So that's my advice there. Okay, I think we'll go last question here. Let's see. Okay, here's a question. Do you think a proof of concept should be more of a short film or more of a trailer? I've written my feature and made the cut for a couple film festivals in the writers category, and after a lot of time mulling over it, I'm ready to get started paring it down for a proof of concept. In your opinion, what's more impactful, a trailer or a short? In my opinion, I would say neither. I would say so I'm assuming you haven't made anything at this point. I would say you should make something that's not your feature. If it's a feature and this is like your foray into filmmaking, fuck it, don't, because it's going to turn out bad. If you really like your feature, the only way I would say Godspeed is if you're the producer and you have a director and a casting person and a camera team that does the production. And then you have an editor to do the editing and you're just kind of driving the car, but you wrote it, don't start with the feature. Most people, I feel like here's my hot take that a lot of people are not going to like. I think most people shouldn't make features ever. Unless you're just doing it to have fun and you don't care how it ends up. If you're even then, fuck, I don't know. A feature is just, especially when you have no budget, it's just nonstop headaches, nonstop roadblocks. You're going to have people drop from the cast and you have to recast. You might have to reshoot a bunch of shit because of it. You're going to have trouble finding good locations. You're going to have trouble finding consistent camera teams willing to work for nothing or very close to nothing. Especially with if they're bringing in their pro gear and they have pro skills. Don't make that sounds like gloom and doomy, but man, I feel like most people shouldn't ever make a feature. I know there's I like to hold up Kevin Smith of look, anybody can do it. You just go make the thing. But no, a feature, I think you should be, you go back to what do you want out of it, I guess. But if you're making a feature with the hopes of I'm going to be the next big filmmaker, I'm going to be the next Kevin Smith, the odds of that happening are not great. You are going to have written a really good thing. Even Kevin Smith had Scott Mosier, who really knew what he was doing. And if you look at the crew for Clerks and the people that worked on that, all of them now were big hot shit dudes. The DP of Clerks went on to shoot a Star Wars film. So people that knew really well what they were doing. And Kevin Smith is really good with people, and had seen enough movies that he could direct. But I think most people need to work to that point. And I think to that end, it's what do you want out of it? Do you just want the experience of making a feature film and you don't care how it does and you're fine if it loses money? Then great, I guess. Make a trailer for it. But if it's me and you have like an Indiegogo or you have a Kickstarter campaign out and you want my money, I'm going to say, what have you done? Like, what have you finished? And like, show me that. And if you have made a short film that I was like, that's amazing, I'll be like, here's the $10. But if you haven't made anything and you're like, this is our first feature, like, I'm not giving you anything because the odds are you're not going to finish it. Like, that's the hard truth. Like, most features don't get finished. Like, not Hollywood features, even Hollywood features probably. Most, I would say, if you look at like number of like features started to finished, I'll bet you less than 5% actually get across the finish line. And the rest are just like good intentions that don't know the reality of it. God, it's a bummer to end on that. I'm not ending on that. Let's end on something happier. But yeah, that's my advice to most people. You shouldn't make a feature. Don't make a feature. That's a bad idea. Is sending cold emails to videographers a good method to get editing freelance work? Maybe. I started a freelance video editor work on Upwork, and I spent more than 1 year and got experience in portfolio. But the problem with Upwork is you can't get a prestigious project that fits your qualifications, like a corporate video or video clip shot by raw cameras and needs editing and grading. Fortunately, most of the projects are Zoom interviews, YouTube podcasts, blah, 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 blah. I have a portfolio and want to work and self-promote in my country. Think about contacting videographers who shoot the videos I am interested in via Facebook. Ask them if they want a video editor colorist. But I feel uncomfortable and inferior doing this. People always disdain and divert someone proactive trying to sell something to them. And they feel like this is disturbing and intruding. That's true. I may exaggerate a little bit and overthink a little bit. It might be I need your advice. What do you think? Is this an effective way to get hired? Yes and no. What are the best methods to self-promote and get hired? Network, not cold call, would be one big piece of advice I have. Make friends and go into it as like, I want to be friends with people. And so your cold calls should revolve around that. You think you're cold, especially if you're starting from a place of like, I've been doing this for a year, and you feel like you're inferior, like you are probably, if you're going into people that have established businesses. And that's okay, because you'll come across humble and you just lean into that. And you'll say like, hey, I like your work. Like, can I take you for coffee and like talk about the business? I want to get into the freelance side of things and see what advice you have and ask you questions. And that sort of ask is a lot easier than like, give me work, which they might not have any work to give you. So like, you meet people, you network, you attend film festivals that are local, you attend film showcases that feature local filmmakers, you attend, if there's a film association in your state or your city, you attend those events and you get to know people and you tell them you're an editor and you keep editing things and you even maybe shoot things on your own so that you have something to edit. That's my advice. I think the only really way cold calling for video work works well would be like if you want to edit wedding videos, because wedding videographers are always behind on wedding, especially if they do a lot of weddings and they need assistant editors almost always, and they churn through them because the work is not that interesting. It's trench work. But through doing that, a lot of times wedding videographers are also corporate people that do corporate jobs during the week. And if that's the case, then they're definitely behind and they definitely have an editor or two on their staff. So that's my advice. Look to make friends. Don't look to sell. Talk to people and just about their work and get to know people, follow them on stuff and engage with what they post your own stuff, post what you're working on. And to that end, there's a really good book called Show Your Work by Austin Kleon. Highly recommend reading it. It talks about how to sell yourself without feeling silly and scummy, because most artists are terrible at it. And he's an artist so he's speaking directly to people like us. And then the other note is just a quote from a guy named Gary Vee, who some people know or some people don't know. He's like a marketing guru guy. He puts out a shitload of content. So if you're interested in that kind of content, you go follow him and you'll just see it nonstop in your feed. But he always says, document, don't create. And I think that resonates well with most creators, because I think when you first start, you're like, I got to promote myself. You work on creating things, and I think if you just document what you're doing, it's a lot more sustainable, and you can keep it up. So that's my advice for you, and I hope that helps. Yeah. So that's office hours for this week. Try to do it on Sundays. Trying to be really good about doing it every Sunday. And if you have questions, drop them in the comments, and I'll try to get to them next week. So thank you for watching, and gonna hit the fade to black button now. Oh, also subscribe or whatever.